My mom brought out old photo albums, and my fiancé whispered, "Don't open it." I could see the fear in his eyes, but I was too curious to stop. Something in that moment shattered everything I thought I knew. It was Christmas, and the house was full of the usual warmth, the smell of cinnamon and pine, laughter drifting from the kitchen, the low hum of familiar voices catching up. My family had gathered in the living room, cozy and festive, the kind of scene that looks perfect in holiday movies. Yet, beneath the surface, something felt off, a tension I couldn't put my finger on, like a secret hiding in the corners. Mom smiled as she pulled out the thick, worn albums, those binders holding decades of memories, old photos of birthdays, vacations, and holidays just like this one. Everyone leaned in, ready to relive the past. But my fiancé's face changed the moment he saw the albums. His usual calm vanished, replaced with a look of dread. "Don't open it," he whispered urgently, barely audible over the chatter. I froze for a moment, staring at him. Why was he so scared? Was this some joke or something more? My heart raced. Trust him or follow my own curiosity? I tried to brush it off, but the unease settled deeper in my chest. That Christmas, nothing was as it seemed. The albums were supposed to bring joy, but instead, they cracked open a door I never wanted to walk through. Christmas had always been a big deal in my family. Growing up, the holidays meant traditions. The same decorations hung year after year, the scent of baked goods filling the house, and a living room full of people who knew all my stories, even the embarrassing ones. I was excited and a little nervous this year because it was my first Christmas with my fiancé's family, but we had also decided to spend the day at my parents' house. It felt like the perfect blend of old and new. My fiancé, Mark, and I had been together for 3 years. He was the calm to my storm, steady, thoughtful, and always trying to keep me grounded. We had talked about marriage, the future, and blending our families. But today was about celebrating the present. Mark was quiet, maybe a little too quiet for my liking, but I thought it was just the usual holiday jitters. The house was warm, decorated in classic reds and greens, twinkling lights wrapped around the staircase, and a huge wreath hung on the front door. The dining table was laden with food: turkey, mashed potatoes, stuffing, and pies that looked too good to eat. Relatives milled about, chatting and laughing, catching up on the year's news. Kids ran around with paper crowns from Christmas crackers, and the fire crackled softly in the background. Mom was the heart of this gathering. She moved gracefully between the kitchen and living room, making sure everyone had a drink, a snack, and a comfortable seat. She was proud of the way the house looked, everything in its place, everything perfect. Mom had a knack for creating a picture-perfect holiday, and everyone expected her to pull off another flawless Christmas. As the afternoon wore on, Mom went to fetch something from the bookshelf. When she returned, she was carrying a stack of old photo albums, big leather-bound books that looked like they belonged in a museum. She smiled warmly, inviting everyone to gather around as she opened the first one. That's when Mark's face changed. I noticed it immediately. A flicker of fear crossed his eyes. He leaned in close and whispered, "Don't open it." His voice was low, almost pleading, but I was too caught up in the moment to listen. I smiled, thinking he was teasing or trying to stir up some holiday mystery. But his reaction felt real, and that feeling settled in my chest like a cold weight, something I couldn't ignore.
Mark's reaction wasn't like anything I'd seen before. Normally, he was the picture of calm, especially around my family. He could joke through the awkward moments, smooth over tense conversations with a well-timed smile, and somehow make even the most uncomfortable relatives feel at ease. But now, as Mom carefully flipped open the first album, his face tightened, and I caught the unmistakable flicker of fear in his eyes again. I glanced at him, trying to read what was going on beneath that calm exterior. "Don't open it," he whispered once more, barely audible but urgent this time. I felt torn. The room was cozy, filled with laughter and chatter, but beneath it all, I sensed something heavy lingering just out of sight. Was Mark reading more into these albums than I was? My curiosity won out. I wanted to see the pictures, the memories frozen in time, the faces of family and friends from years gone by. What could be so dangerous in a photo album? But part of me hesitated, a small voice warning me to listen to Mark. I thought back to the last few months, little moments that hadn't made sense until now. The way Mark had stiffened when I mentioned my sister's new boyfriend. The vague, guarded way he'd avoided talking about some of my family's past. I remembered overhearing hushed phone calls, the quick changes of subject, the subtle tension when family secrets hovered just beneath polite conversation. I started to wonder if there was something in these albums, something that was buried, something no one was supposed to see or remember. What if these photos weren't just old memories, but pieces of a puzzle I hadn't realized was incomplete? Mark's hand brushed against mine, a silent plea to stop, but the rest of the room watched expectantly. Mom smiled, unaware of the storm brewing just beneath the surface. I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the moment pressing down on me. The air seemed to thicken. Every laugh, every clink of a glass, every soft murmur became background noise as my attention locked onto the albums and Mark's growing unease. I knew opening those pages would change everything. But I was already leaning forward, fingers trembling, ready to break the silence. And then the moment came. I flipped the page carefully, trying to steady my shaking hands. At first, it was the usual family pictures. Smiling faces, birthday parties, holidays past. But then I stumbled on something different. A photo tucked behind the others, partially hidden, that made my heart stop. It was a picture of my mom standing beside a man I didn't recognize. The strange thing wasn't the man, though. It was the envelope she held in her hand. The photo was dated, but the image was clear enough to see the tense grip on the envelope and the serious expression on her face. Behind her, the background looked like the back room of a run-down building. I showed Mark the photo, his face drained of color. He said, "That's why I told you not to open this," he said quietly, his voice cracking with something I hadn't heard before, fear. I looked closer, turning the pages faster now, desperate to understand. Among the photos were handwritten notes and newspaper clippings, articles about a scandal I'd never heard whispered in my family. The words embezzlement, fraud, and cover-up stared back at me from yellowed paper. It felt like a history of deception was laid bare in front of me, a story my family had buried deep. I caught my mom's eye across the room, and for the first time, I saw her differently. A flicker of guilt or fear passed over her face, gone too fast to be a coincidence. My heart pounded. The woman who had raised me, who had told me stories of resilience and sacrifice, now felt like a stranger hiding behind a mask. Mark pulled me aside gently, his hand steadying my arm. This isn't just history. It's why I've been worried about your family all along. They're not just hiding old secrets. Some of them are still active, dangerous. I shook my head, unable to believe it. Why would they keep this from me? Why not tell me? He looked down, voice low. Because they don't want you to know the truth. They want to protect the image. And maybe they don't even trust themselves. My mom came over then, her smile gone. "What are you looking at?" she asked, voice tight. I held up the photo, the notes. This, all of this. Her eyes flickered to Mark, then back to me. "You don't understand. You never have." "I want to," I said, voice breaking. "But how can I when I've been lied to?" The room went silent. My dad, who had been quietly watching, finally spoke. "Sometimes the truth hurts more than a lie. We tried to protect you. But you risked everything. Trust, family, us." That was the moment I realized things would never be the same. The foundation I thought my family was built on was cracked, maybe irreparably. Mark squeezed my hand. "We have to decide what comes next, together." I nodded, tears blurring my vision. The photo albums opened a door to a past I couldn't ignore, a future I had to face, with or without them.
The weight of what we had uncovered settled over us like a storm cloud. Mark and I didn't speak much on the drive home. Words felt heavy, useless. My mind raced through everything the albums had revealed, while a quiet determination grew inside me. I knew something had to change. For my sake, for Mark's, and for the future we hoped to build together. That evening, I confronted my mom. I needed answers, even if they were painful. We sat across from each other at the kitchen table, the silence thick between us. I held the album in my hands, open to the page with the damning pictures and notes. "Why didn't you tell me the truth?" I asked, voice barely above a whisper. She looked down, fiddling with a thread on her sleeve. "I thought I was protecting you, that if you didn't know, it wouldn't hurt you." "But it did hurt," I said. "It's hurting now. This secret, it's like a poison that's been running through our family for years." Her eyes glistened with unshed tears. "It wasn't supposed to be this way. We made mistakes, bad ones. But you have to understand, it was never about you. We were trying to hold everything together." I shook my head, fighting back the emotions. "At what cost? You risked everything. And when Mark warned me, I ignored him because I wanted to believe in all of you." The truth was, I was furious, not just about the lies, but about how deeply it cut into my sense of safety. I felt betrayed, but also sad. Sad for the family I thought I had and the one that existed beneath the surface. Mark stayed quiet during the conversation, but I could feel his steady presence beside me, a silent support, a reminder that I wasn't alone. That night, we made a decision. The past was something we couldn't change, but our future was ours to protect. We would set boundaries, clear lines that even family couldn't cross. No more secrets, no more lies.
No more risking the peace we fought so hard to find. It wasn't easy. There were calls that went unanswered, messages that I didn't read. Family gatherings were awkward or avoided altogether. The cost of standing up for ourselves was high, and it left wounds that took time to heal. But the alternative, living in denial, was worse. Mark and I grew closer through it all. Our trust in each other deepened, a steady anchor amid the chaos. I learned that sometimes love means saying no, even to those you care most about. Protecting yourself is not selfish, it's necessary. And so, with a heavy heart but clear resolve, I drew the line. Our family might never be perfect, but it could be safe. For the first time in a long time, I believed that was enough. The days and weeks after the confrontation felt like stepping into a new, unfamiliar world. The old rhythm of family life, the calls, the visits, the casual check-ins, all stopped. It was painful, but necessary. That silence was both a void and a space to breathe. I realized how much the secret had shaped not just my family, but who I thought I was. For years, I had carried the weight of others' mistakes, trying to keep the peace, trying to be the responsible one. But now, freed from the lies, I had to relearn what it meant to trust myself and to allow others to truly see me. Mark became my rock. His quiet strength gave me the courage to rebuild. When I doubted, he reminded me of my worth. When I felt isolated, he held my hand and said, "We're in this together." Together, we started setting new boundaries. We limited contact with my parents, focusing instead on the family we were creating. I enrolled the kids in activities far from the old neighborhood, places where our past couldn't follow us. The fresh mountain air of North Carolina, where we eventually relocated, became a symbol of our new beginning. It wasn't just a change of scenery, it was a chance to rewrite our story away from the shadows of betrayal. Slowly, I found healing in small moments. The kids laughing freely without tension, Mark sleeping peacefully through the night, me waking up without that familiar knot of anxiety. It was imperfect, but it was real, and it was ours. Some days the past still crept in, a message from an old family member, a holiday reminder, but the distance gave me perspective. I learned that family isn't only defined by blood, but by love, respect, and trust. This experience taught me that protecting yourself and your loved ones isn't an act of selfishness, but one of survival. It's about choosing peace over chaos, honesty over deception. And as much as it hurt to say goodbye to the family I thought I had, I know now that true family supports you, even when the truth is hard. Our story isn't perfect, but it's ours. And for the first time, that feels enough. Family loyalty can be complicated. We want to believe in unconditional love, but sometimes that love is tangled with secrets, betrayals, and unspoken rules. Trust is fragile, especially when it's tested by the people who should protect us the most. This experience showed me that loyalty doesn't mean sacrificing your well-being or ignoring red flags. Sometimes loyalty means setting boundaries and choosing yourself. It's painful, yes, but necessary to heal and grow. I'm sharing this story not just to unburden myself, but to remind anyone listening that you're not alone if you've faced similar family secrets or betrayals. It's okay to feel conflicted. It's okay to protect your peace. What about you?
Have you ever uncovered a family secret that changed everything? How did you handle it? Did you keep trusting or did you set boundaries? I want to hear your story in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, please hit subscribe and join our community where we share stories about real life, complicated relationships and finding strength in the hardest moments. Thank you for listening. And remember, sometimes the bravest thing you can do is choose your own peace.